Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Good evening, everybody out there in Winchester. Welcome to tonight's Town Manager's public hearing on the spring town meeting warrant. And we have an action-packed warrant ahead. So looking forward to having a good conversation with anyone who's out there in the audience, with lots of visiting friends from the school committee and from the capital budget committee and from the select board and from a number of other committees and groups that will be answering questions as we walk our way through the warrant tonight. So if you'd like to be ask a question, just please raise your virtual hand. You'll see that at the bottom of the Zoom. And Patty, who is the producer of tonight's show, will let you in. I will begin by sharing, hopefully successfully, a PowerPoint presentation created by Jen Caffarella in my office. If you give me just a second, I should be able to share it. Are we good? Can everyone see me?
You're good.
Good. All right. Here we go. The first few articles are just routine. The first one is the reports of committees. So that'll be in towns and boards of finance committee. Well, actually, it's really mostly town officers. Finance committee has a bigger report later on. So I'll do a report. Select board will do a report. A number of others. So there'll be some written that'll be available at the meeting, and others will be done virtually in front of the audience. Actually, live, I should say, in front of the audience. There'll be a consent agenda vote. There'll be a number of articles on the consent agenda. I will touch them as we go through. These are mostly routine articles that are done every year, and more information on them all are in the motion book. By the way, I should tell you, if you want to follow along, the motion book is available up online. It's also been mailed to all the members of town meeting.
Excuse me, Chris, for a moment. I'm going to actually start the recording just in case something happens and we need it. So I'm going to
recording in progress.
Just hold from here.
No, just hold from here. It's fine.
Okay.
So it's all set.
Okay. Article 4, the Human Rights Commission bylaw. Is there someone in the audience who'd like to share more information on this with us tonight?
Please raise your hand if you know more information or you're on the committee. Anthony is not available.
Basically, this is to add a Human Rights Commission to the committee structure here in Winchester. Something lots of other communities have done. There's been a working group that's been active on this all spring, and I see Mary Ellen Marshall's out there to fill us in. She's been active on the committee from the town managers as a town manager representative. Mary Ellen? tell us more about the Human Rights Commission article.
Mary Allen, you just unmute yourself.
We're having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Meredith is, I'm bringing her in.
Okay.
Meredith Carley.
Hello,
Oh, there she is. Hi, Meredith. We can hear you now.
how are you? I was on I'm on the Committee on Government Regulations, and we reviewed this bylaw. So, unless there's somebody else on who's a member of the committee that wants to speak, I can just make a couple of comments.
Anthea is actually here, and
Oh,
I'm going to bring
okay.
her in. Okay.
Why don't we, it's her article. I'll let her make that, her comments. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
yeah.
We have Anthea Brady, the chair of the select board, joining us, who is the primary mover behind this new committee.
Yeah.
Anthea, the stage is
Hi.
yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So this article is to develop a human rights commission for the town. Actually, I will address top off while you see it's revised. We made one small change, language change, which will bring as a friendly amendment to the article, and also on feedback from the GovRegs committee are putting this forward as just a committee within the bylaws and not a committee of town meeting. But the idea is that this group would be available as a membership who works around policies and programs for the town and for its residents, has a relationship both to the town through an appointee of the town manager, the school department, and the police, as well as members appointed by the school committee and the select board, who would basically serve to kind of move forward the human rights statement that's been adopted by the town. Keep in mind some of those policies and processes, provide any feedback or advice on changes that might be relevant to the commission, and kind of be composed to identify some other activities that make sense in terms of relationship with statewide human rights organizations or related organizations, providing some input and guidance or potentially development of townwide programs, and work on any sort of related pressing issues that come up to the town. And I'll apologize, I have quite a bit of background noise, so I'm going to mute myself unless there's additional questions.
Thank you, Anthea. Are there any questions from us? By the way, I just want to say we have 53 people on this webinar, which is actually pretty impressive. Any questions? If anyone has a question, raise your virtual hand. If not, thank you, Anthea. And if you want to hold on, we might have some more fun for you to share as we go through this. So, okay.
Excuse me, Meredith, is there any other comments you want to make regarding this?
Not really. Anthea, you mentioned a friendly amendment. Could you just elaborate on that?
Absolutely. And I see, so our town clerk was on the committee as well, and she worked with our town council to make just a small amendment to a language change that was a little bit murky about essentially going back to grammar lessons, the article of the sentence. And then the other amendment is to not have this be within chapter 2 as a committee of town meeting, but to be a new section. So is not a committee that is a committee of town meeting, but is a standalone committee within the bylaw.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, I think we talked about that. So I'll look forward to hearing the rest of the presentation on that when we get to town meeting. But that sounded like a good change to your bylaw proposal.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
that.
Meredith.
Yeah. All right, if there's no one else, but thank you both for that. We'll hear more at town meeting. We will go to Article 5. This is town meeting rules of oh, wait a second. We have more pages to go through on this one, sorry. Article 5, this is changes to town meeting procedure. This all goes back to the big conversations about using town meeting time. I believe that we have a representative from that committee in the audience, Heather Von Mering. Heather, if you can promote her up, Patty, that would be awesome.
Okay, she's in.
Hi, everyone.
Heather, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So this is the first time that probably some town meeting members are hearing about the update on this, although we've been working because we have members on we're called the Special Town Meeting Committee. We've been working with the Committee on Rules and Government Regs because we have members of those committees on the special committee. So what we were tasked to do back in fall of 2025 was to really review town meeting procedures, recommend bylaw changes that reconcile procedures and town meeting time, submit articles and motions to town meeting, which this is, and report findings and recommendations. Just so everyone knows, in your motion booklet has been updated. You can find the updated motion and background on the town meeting's website. They will also be sent out. We had them but we're waiting. We're going to send them with the school committee has some amended motions coming in as well. So just to put it with their packet to be more efficient use of one mailing. And so I can talk to a little bit about that if you'd like. And really at the end, those goals were really to make sure that the transition to town meeting time is as seamless as possible. And so right now for town meeting, we are recommending essentially one bylaw change and 3 additions to chapter 3 of the town bylaws, which is town meeting section. The first one is a change of the language to move to town meeting time. So it's changing from Robert's rules to town meeting time. The second one is adding the assistant moderator and clarifying that the assistant moderator has no authority in the moderator's absence. The third one is moving the vote, where you do not see that in any of town meeting time or Robert's rules. That is unique to Winchester, and getting that into our bylaws. And as I said, it's seamless as possible, so we are not changing any of the procedures. We're just getting them into our bylaws so they are locked in with the change. And the last one is consent agenda. The consent agenda for town meeting started during Peter Haley's time. And I'm pretty sure that really only the moderators, the chair of the select board, the prior managers and assistant managers knew how the consent agenda actually got to town meeting. So that has now been outlined in written form and added into the bylaws. It's also recommended by town meeting time that consent agendas procedures are in the bylaws. So that is the 4th item. So we came up with 4 bylaw changes, essentially, nothing too wild. Do we have additional recommendations? Yes. Instead of doing many bylaw changes, we went through a tedious and long discussion and debate among the special town committee. The head of town meeting time has some wishy-washy language in it. You could do this, you could do that, you could do this, right? So it gives you lots of options. It's not that our policies are against town meeting, it's unclear. And so to better address this in this kind of wishy-washy language, we are recommending that the current policies and procedures at town meeting be included in an updated guide to Winchester town meeting. So you would not see that in these motions before you under Article 5. Examples of additions would be town meeting time includes the history of town meeting. It does not include the history of Winchester's town meeting. Guidelines for presentations and written materials. Those were created back with the Communications Study Committee back in the day, getting those into the guidelines. How committees are created during our meetings. The final article of our agenda on the warrant always includes the opening and closing of committees of town meeting. That how we do that is not outlined anywhere. uses of points of information. I'll go into more depth about what needs to be included in that policies and procedures. But you can also review back to our report that we gave and to go over 29 items that we reviewed to either put in the policies and procedures, do a bylaw change, or they're fine as is. So voting yes will implement the 4 bylaw changes that are that I've just spoke about. The guide to Winchester Town Meeting is the responsibility of the moderator, and it will include the policies and procedures, and we are told by the moderator will be completed for fall of 2026. So if you vote yes, these changes will be in place. We will follow town meeting time in fall 2026 town meeting, along with the policies and procedures will be written for everyone's reference at that time as well. So I'm happy to take any questions, and if you think of any between now and town meeting, please don't hesitate. You can always email me at hvonmering@yahoo.com as well.
Thank you, Heather. That was very comprehensive. And it's a lot. I know it's a lot for people to get their arms around. So thank you. Is there anybody in the audience with questions? Remember, you can raise your virtual hand if you'd like to do that. I don't see anybody. And thank you, Patty. Thank you again, Heather, very much for that summary, and looking forward to having this act on a town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to Article 6. This is actually kind of really kind of a technical change, more than the fee change. Is anyone from the Board of Health want to talk about this? I see Jennifer Murphy in the audience, if Patty can promote her.
Yep. Where is she? Oh, she went up to the top. Okay, Jen, you're in.
Okay, can you hear me, Patty?
Yes.
All right,
Yes, we
great.
can.
Okay,
What was
thank
yours,
you.
Jen?
All right, thank you. This is a fairly straightforward article. The Massachusetts state law requires that in order to set a fee for recreational camps for children, a bylaw must be adopted by town meeting. So in order to raise the camp permit fee, the town meeting must vote to adopt this bylaw. Therefore, it will allow the Board of Health to actually vote to set the fee at a later date. So this article is really just the mechanism in order to allow the Board of Health to set a permit fee, which needs to be increased. It hasn't been increased in quite a number of years. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. That's easy. So this is basically, it's a procedural article. It's going to give the Board of Health the power to set this, which makes lots of sense. Thank you. Any questions for anybody on this one? From anybody on this one? Jennifer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, we have Article 7, which is a vote to adapt the local occupancy excise tax under state law. Does anyone in the audience want to know about this? I can describe it briefly, unless someone else wants to do it. I see Paris Bayani. Can you promote him? Member of the Select Board.
Where did he go? Okay, you're in, Paris.
Thank you. Yeah, super quick on this one. I just figured I was here, so why not? Because I'll present it. So as part of our State of the Town work, we had taken a look at a variety of different fees and fines and other authorities that we could look at to generate and increase local receipts. This is one that we found just as part of our overall review. We're basically the only one of our peers that doesn't have this in place. Of course, we don't actually have a hotel in town, but we do have a bunch of Airbnbs that have been operating for many years. The state is collecting its tax on it already. And so all we have to do is fill out a one-page form, send it to the Department of Revenue, and they'll send us our 6%. It's not a lot of money. It's somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. But as we continue to collect all the nickels and dimes, we figured this one requires town meeting approval, so we might as well go ahead and bring it.
Okay, that's great. Great summary. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none. Thank you, Paris, and we'll look forward to getting this acted on next week at town meeting. Moving on, So we have water and sewer rates, which are updated every year. And would our chair, Anthony Brady, like to chat on this?
Yeah, happy to. And town meeting members will get to hear from me again on the water and sewer rates. This is our standard spring article about the increase to water and sewer. The board voted to increase by 7% this year, which addresses some pretty good numbers from last year, given it being pretty dry in the better part of the summer, but also recognizes a need to balance revenues and expenses with our water and sewer rates and projects that are happening within the town.
Okay, all the information is in the warrant and in the motion book. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none. Thank you. Oh, I'm
There is
sorry. I
one.
jumped too fast.
No? Okay, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Will pickleball be something that'll be discussed if we're gonna move on to the rec department soon?
No, they do. I don't think there's an article there for it. If there is later on, but there's nothing on it now. I do have Michael Crean, who's on the field management committee, is just raised his hand, and I'm going to bring him in to. So, Michael, do you?
Hi, Patty.
Hi, can you answer his question, or
Well, I'm not
you
sure.
have?
I think his question was, are we going to be talking about pickleball soon? Or did I misunderstand?
He did, and
Yeah.
I don't. That's not an article.
Right. If you have a question about pickleball, I'd be delighted to talk to you, particularly offline, so that we don't hijack this meeting, although I'm not, I would love to be transparent.
So yeah, there is. I will add that there is pickleball funding was approved, and there is I believe design work already underway. And again, happy to have a further conversation about this. Unfortunately, this is way out of scope of the water article. But feel free to contact the office and Mr. Is it Prabhakar? Am I saying that right, or totally mangling your name?
Yeah, Prabhakar.
All right. If you could talk to Mr. Crean afterwards, that would be great. Or reach out to my office, and I'm happy to plug you in to folks at the recreation department.
And I'd be delighted to have that conversation with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you both. Okay. There'll be more information about that coming. I know that is underway. So
I have Roger
right.
Wilson also, who probably has questions about the water sewer.
All right. Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, I wanted an explanation of why it's going up 7%.
Yeah, so it's going up 7%. This is actually a bit lower than what we anticipated last year at this time for this current fiscal year. But it's just addressing the needs of the use of water and sewer, maintaining our I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name for it. Maintaining our water and sewer account balance over a certain threshold as it gets depleted over time. We operate pretty close to the line on that. So trying effectively the weather is unpredictable, and so we need to maintain the enterprise fund until for future years, not knowing what the weather will be like year to year and summer to summer.
That's the explanation.
I will also add to Chair Brady that most of our water, a large chunk of our water and all of our sewer are handled by the MWRA. So when they raise rates, those rates get passed through. That is part of the reality of being part of that system. The town does a lot of work to maintain water rates, moderate them by running its own water plant. That said, it's really important to understand that the MWRA component really fuels a lot of this. And I see that Paris rejoined the conversation if he'd like to add something further.
Yeah, and I can just hop in. We have some detailed information from when our consultant came and presented this to the board that we can share as well in terms of the background behind why it's 7% this year and what the difference is and the actual numbers on the enterprise accounts. And we'll have more detail about that at town meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Anthea. And I just wanted to add a little bit of that. Anthea is the real expert on water and sewer, but as she said, we can show the whole model. Roger, happy to send that to you. I know Anthea's traveling. I can send you the analysis that the consultants had done for us. There was an extensive hearing on it. The select board voted unanimously because I think the idea is to keep the percent increase consistent, and we have to create a certain level of reserve within the water and sewer enterprise fund. If we don't do that, the problem is if we bring in the rate increase lower 1 year, then the problem is we have to more than make up for it in the next year. So, for example, if you dipped it to 5% this year, you'll end up at a 10% increase next year. And the other reason we have to maintain that is all of the MS4 and stormwater and infrastructure work is done via Chapter 110. And the way Chapter 110 works is, Anthea, you may remember the percent offhand, but I think it's 11 or 12% of Chapter 110, which puts the other, 88 or so percent on debt, on effectively a debt exclusion. We have to fund that out of the enterprise fund's retained cash. So it's what allows us to do all of MS4, stormwater management, things like South Reservoir Dam, the big capital projects. We have to have a share of it that comes from the water and sewer rates.
So is it capital projects that are driving a 7.5% increase?
I mean, Anthea, feel free to jump in, but I think that is how I certainly look at it. The money that goes into the water and sewer enterprise fund is used for the maintenance and rehabilitation of the water infrastructure, and because we have to fund a portion of, the remainder through Chapter 110 goes straight onto the tax levy, but then there's the portion of it that has to be funded from the enterprise fund, and that is where the overwhelming share of that money goes, the maintenance and capex for the water program itself.
So, and just to jump in on that, and I think the report that we have that we can share also really articulates a lot of this. The revenues coming into for water and sewer are covering MWRA fees for water delivery, as well as sewer charges, which have a new, as the MWRA has been installing newer meters, they're getting more precise readings, which are increasing our charges to MWRA. So that has been consistent over the past few years and has started to taper off this year. There's required fees for our the stormwater and infiltration and things like that, and practices that we need to keep up with. We recently, as everyone knows, did the North Reservoir Dam and also doing the South Reservoir Dam. So there's major projects that have been funded that essentially affect the retained earnings for water and sewer. So what we're trying to do with a 7% increase is to address basically the known needs for water and sewer expenditures, as well as the unknown of what the summer ahead of us will look like. And so if it's a very wet summer, a lot of people are not using water to water their lawns or plants or, put the sprinkler on in the summertime. And so because we just don't know what the year ahead will look like, we need to kind of also assume a rate that allows us to address that uncertainty. If we get, multiple very dry years, then that increases the revenues that we
Revenue.
have over time and allows us to slow that increase down eventually.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Wilson.
have Jennifer has some questions. I'm going to bring her in.
And if people could just introduce themselves when they jump on, that would be helpful too.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jennifer Hafley, Precinct 7. And trying to answer Roger's question, actually. And maybe Anthea and Paras can jump in if I have this wrong. But I believe that the Water and Sewer Fund will face a deficit in the millions of dollars if we are not increasing those rates. And I believe they are expected to go up 7 to 8, maybe 9% annually for the next 4 to 5 years. Is that correct?
I apologize that I am not looking at what our consultant has shared with us around the
I have it, Anthea, if you want me to walk through.
around the well, it was just I don't think we need to go in detail. I think it's helpful to address like what the actual potential deficit is. It is correct that we would estimate that this is over the next 3 to 4 fiscal years, a 7% increase. But as everyone knows, we vote on water and sewer rates annually because we, are adjusting this year to year based on the prior year's activity.
So I guess my question then is what measures are being taken to control the growth of this water and sewer expense? And what can we do, if anything?
So I think that's a good question overall. Some of it is out of our control and some of it is addressing major capital projects, which many of us don't notice because you wouldn't notice until a catastrophic failure at some level. And so I would just say that I think this is a broader question of our water use and behavior on one end, as well as the facilities and capital activities on the other hand, and probably something I'd be happy to discuss with you and something that might be relevant at our hearing when we do our annual water rates hearing. And I'm happy to talk about that before Monday if you have more interest in it.
And Mr. Wilson, we have
Thank you.
Roger, I sent you the deck. I CC'd Anthea and Chris on it, and I would definitely encourage you to read it. As Anthea said, it's a very detailed piece of analysis, but as she said, the MWRA assessment went up 8%, 8.8% for FY27. The O&M expenses are up 10.3%. Water infrastructure is expensive. It is something that the town is catching up on. We have MS4 as well, and there's a whole list of capital projects in there. So maybe we leave it here, but the deck is not super long. It's only 9 pages, but it's worth flipping through, and then you can chat further.
Okay.
And sorry, could I ask one follow-up question? This is Jennifer. And then we can leave water. I had heard there was discussion of adding a 4th tier so that high water users would kind of defer the expenses for those who are not using as much. And I wondered, it looks like that did not happen. I was just curious why.
Yeah, you're stealing the thunder of my presentation. We had a highly attended water and sewer hearing when we made this vote. There were 3 people there who provided comment, and the gist of comments by all 3 who were there was, how do we address equity a little bit better within these tiers, because we have the sort of the $35 fee and then the use charges. And so we asked our DPW and we asked our DPW and to work with our water consultant just to give us an idea of what it would look like if we added a fourth tier to kind of provide be able to provide a bit more equity for folks who are lower consumers because they may be a smaller household, a single family, a senior, and that's something that's going to come back to us in the future, but it wasn't something that was prepared for and ready for a vote on the day of the hearing. So stay tuned. You may be hearing about that within the upcoming year.
Okay,
but
great.
not
Thank you.
for this article.
All right, thank you.
We have
Michael,
another
I brought you in.
Do you have another question, Patty?
Thank you, Patty. There are some precinct 8 residents who have reached out to me asking if about the impact of their having 2 meters, and it's been presented to me that the second meter is often so that water that's used, for instance, to fill a pool or for some other less drainage related use, they're finding that they're paying for inbound and thinking that it's a sewer rate. Is there going to be an addressing of that point, please?
I'm happy to respond to that to precinct 8 offline because it seems like and also maybe a good question for DPW, but happy to talk about the balance of the rates and what that looks like if there's a group of folks who have more questions about it.
Thank you.
Been a very robust conversation. Thank you for everyone for participating. Seeing anyone else, last call on water and sewer, though there'll obviously be more conversations at town meeting itself. Remember, there's a lot. There is more information up on. There will be more information on the town website. I'll make sure that this deck that was just discussed is up there as well, so people can easily access it. If there are no other questions on water and sewer, the next group of articles 9 through 14, are all on the consent agenda. And they all deal with things, several of them, like, for example, on prior year bills, there are none. So that's going to be just indefinitely postponed. And there's no changes or supplements to the water, sewer, or recreation budgets. The others are all pretty routine annual things that happen. Even the amendments to the general fund budget are comparatively small. If anyone has any questions, any of them, happy to answer. If not, we will jump to Article 15.
Have
the general
someone,
stabilization.
Pamela.
Oh, we do, okay.
Hi.
Okay, Pam.
Hi, Pamela Court, Precinct 5. I have a question on Article 10. And it's just, if I'm curious if this is fully funding and ensuring that WinCam has enough money to fulfill its mission to this community.
So I can tell you that generally speaking, the revenues, this all comes off your bill. If you look, there's a little charge in this, and all the money the town gets passed through onto WinCam. It's decreasing because less and less people are taking cable.
Yeah.
There's an active effort in the legislature right now to find alternative funding sources. I know that when I met with the WinCam folks a month or two ago, they were talking about that and the work that's being done on Beacon Hill to find alternative funding sources. I know that WinCam has a robust local organization that supports it. That said, in the short term, it's funding them. In the long term, as people cut the cord and these revenues decrease, that's an open question.
Thank you. And I just was concerned that we were giving them the money that they needed. Thanks.
Yeah, well, so we're giving them all the money we get, right? So it passes through. That said, that money is declining as people change their habits. So it is a long-term challenge for WinCam and all the locally supported operations like them. Okay. The article itself is very routine. This just moves the money we get onto WinCam so they can actually have it. Hopefully the state will make this easier so we don't have to go through town meeting every time to do this. Any questions on any of these other articles in the consent agenda? Now I'm going to jump to Article 15, which is putting money to the general stabilization account. And if Selectman Bayani would like to comment on that or explain more, that'd be great.
Yeah, happy to briefly. So there are two halves of our free cash. So let me rephrase that. There are two halves of our operating reserves, one of which is free cash, which is the number people are more familiar with, which is about 21.5 million, slightly more than that right now. And then there's another account called general stabilization, which is 5 million. One of the pieces of analysis that we did with State of the Town with Stacy and then getting some additional help as a select board was to take a look at that piece. And it turns out our policy has always said for the last 15 plus years that we're trying to actually achieve a balance between the two. The state recommends that we achieve a balance between the two, have roughly half in each side, and then Moody's also recommends having balance between the two. It has been over a dozen years since the town has actually put money into general stabilization. And so what we wanted to do, if had the override passed, we likely would have had a large one-time transfer from free cash into general stabilization. Since it didn't pass, what we've elected to do instead as a board is to recommend that town meetings start to programmatically transfer. I think we're starting with $1 million money from one side of our operating reserves to the other. What's the benefit of it? Why do people recommend that we maintain more general stabilization as a proportion of the total reserves? Think about it as the difference between a checking account, which is free cash, and a long-term savings account, which is general stabilization. The GS money doesn't move as much. Money hasn't really moved out in about a dozen years. It's subject to a higher vote of town meeting. It takes 2/3 to move money in and out. And because of that, it allows the commissioners of the trust funds, the folks who work with the town, who are investors, to potentially buy some longer dated securities, not risk securities, but fixed income bonds and certificates of deposit that allow us to generate more interest income. So ideally, they're about 50-50. Today, we have about 4 times more money in one than the other. And so the recommendation of the select board is to start programmatically moving money from the shorter term free cash to the longer term general stabilization. Obviously, at this pace, it would take a while to do, but given the outcome of the override, I think our view is to start small and then ramp that up over time.
Thank you, Paris. I think we have a question in the audience. Patty?
Yep, Brian's in.
Hi there, do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Brian Vernelli at 19 Sergeant Road. I'm just a quick question. Is this a majority vote or a 2/3 vote to do this? It sounded like Mr. Bayani.
2/3.
It is 2/3.
It's a majority vote to go in. It's a 2/3 vote to go out.
Oh.
Okay.
It only takes a majority to put the money in, but it takes 2/3 to take the money back out.
Okay, so I won't deliberate on this now, but I just wanted to understand that. So it puts our money away, but makes it harder to get than it is to put away. So okay, thank you. That's all. It was a question. I may have opinions at town meeting, but for now it was just a question. Thank you.
Yeah, and Brian, hearing your my guess is your opinion. There's 21.7 of free cash. There's 5 of general stabilization. The Moody's, the Department of Local Services, and our own policies recommend that we would be at about 50-50, which would be 13 and 13. So this would move 1 million over for now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I just brought in Roger again. Roger, you have a question?
Yes, we had a problem quite a few years ago where the controller at the time had invested funds in a high risk money market or something, and I wondered what is considered low risk in the
that's all still so the products you can pick are the ones that are approved by the state treasurer's office. So they're effectively treasury securities and CDs. There's virtually, the cash reserves, operating reserves have to be invested under very strict guidance from the state treasurer, which would apply here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, another good conversation. Seeing no other questions, we will move on to Article 16, which is the acquisition and installation of solar panels on a number of locations. And I believe that we have Ken Pruitt, who is our sustainability coordinator, available to start this conversation. Ken, welcome to the hearing.
Thank you, Chris. And can you hear me? Great. Patty, I had sent you first of all, is there any way I could share my screen?
No, you can't actually, Ken.
Okay.
As I said, this is just a review.
Okay.
It's not to go through, because I looked at your screen, and it's just a review for the attendees to just discuss about it. Your screen would be what you'll use at town meeting.
Yeah, I understand. That's no problem.
Okay.
Okay. So this is an article that is sponsored by the Select Board and School Committee. The purpose is to take advantage of an opportunity that exists to put solar arrays, solar power systems in 7 locations on 5 different properties, and with quite a bit of positive net revenue for the town. The reason that we are proposing this at this time is that the financial incentives are very good right now, and some of them are either decreasing or going away entirely soon. The most important one is the federal investment tax credit. It's worth 25.5% of all solar project costs to the town. We're talking about almost $8 million in proposed projects. So we're looking at a $2 million rebate to the town from the federal government if we build all these projects. In addition to that, the town became a designated climate leader community under the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources last year. So we are now also eligible for a $1 million climate leader decarbonization grant and this is an eligible project type. So between federal and state grants, tax rebates and grants, we'd be looking at $3 million back to the town, which we can use to pay down the debt that we incur to purchase and build these systems. In addition to that, we then would have the revenue of the state solar incentive program, which is between 17 and 22 cents per kilowatt hour. We'd be generating our own electricity at multiple sites, insulating us from future utility cost increases, and giving us control over our expenses. So what does that end up as? These numbers are going to be a little different from what you see in the motion book, because the motion book assumed that we did not use the $3 million in tax credits and grants to pay down debt. Assuming we do that, over 25 years, if we do all these projects, we anticipate we would bring in over $19 million. There would be over $19 million in cost savings and revenue to the town. The cost of doing that, which is the cost of purchasing the systems plus paying down debt over those 25 years, as well as operation and maintenance, is a little over $10 million. So we would end up with a net financial benefit to the town of $8.8 million over 25 years. In addition to that, the revenue to the town would be net positive in every single year, including the first year. There are also, of course, the environmental benefits of generating renewable electricity, which helps us meet our climate action plan goals. But I wanted to make sure that I emphasized the financial benefits of doing this. I think Patty, if you scroll ahead in the motion book, that it shows the actual project sites. I'm not sure
this is, as I said, Ken, this is just a review. And so what Jen has put together in this slide is just the actual article and the motion, but it's not,
okay.
what's in the motion book. What anybody who has not received it can access it via our website under town meeting. All the documents that pertain to the Springtown meeting is there and accessible, and then you'll
Great.
be able to see the rest of it.
Okay, well, I'll just mention then that the sites in question would be at the Winchester High School, remaining rooftop areas that don't have solar. We did do some solar there back in 2020, as well as a parking canopy solar over part of the parking lot between the high school and the railroad tracks. There would be a parking canopy solar at Vincent Owen Elementary School in the parking lot behind the school. Canopy solar project at McCall Middle School and over the parking lot close to the running track. Two adjacent solar canopies at the transfer station, adjacent to the recycling compactors and the trash conveyor belt. And finally, two smaller systems on two sort of shop buildings at the DPW. And so this warrant article would authorize the town to borrow to do these projects. It doesn't necessarily mean we would do all the projects. They would have to go through engineering still, and not all projects may survive fully intact by going through engineering. But if we do build all these projects, and we have reason to be optimistic, again, we're looking at almost $9 million in net revenue to the town. Maybe I'll stop there and see if there are questions.
Is there anyone else that has a question? I know there was one question in the Q&A, and you actually answered it for them. And that was, do we have an estimate on what the long-term cost savings will be?
Right. Yeah, the net would be $8.8 million.
I can just ask Ken where people could turn for more information if they wanted to, or on the town's website.
This presentation is not up on the town website yet. We can certainly do so. The two places where information exists right now are in the motion book and in the slide deck that'll be presented at town meeting.
And it will be on by tomorrow morning. The presentation you just sent to me, Ken? Okay,
Yep.
yes. It will be under the town meeting items.
Right. I know this also went through what was the committee, Ken? The solar committee?
The Energy Management Committee, in addition to the Select Board and School Committee and DPW and others, were part of the solar working group.
Solar working.
Yeah.
And I see Paris, you have something you want to add on?
No.
Okay, I have a few more questions. The next one is, in our precinct meeting, there were questions about snow removal and whether DPW is comfortable with the design on the school roofs.
Right. So I spoke with the DPW facility director about this, and he said that I believe this question came up primarily with regard to the high school. He said that they don't do snow removal, and not around. I mean, there's existing solar arrays there. They don't do any snow removal, and he would not plan to do any snow removal on the roof in the future, even if we expand, whether or not we expand the solar arrays there.
And the other question is, what is the lifespan of these panels?
So it's interesting. They're quite long. There, in fact, was an early project in the 1980s in Beverly, I believe, on a school there, and those panels were only removed within the last 5 to 10 years. So it was something like 40 plus years they were operating. There's a slow reduction in output in solar panels over time, but in general, they tend to just keep on producing. What you do have to replace are the inverters. That's a smaller component, smaller cost. It's a component of the system that is necessary for them to operate. And generally every 13 to 15 years, you have to replace the inverters. And that is in fact incorporated in the costs that I mentioned already. But theoretically, if these systems could continue running well after the 25-year period we're talking about.
So then also too, in response to the snow, one resident has solar panels, and snow melts quickly under the sun, assuming an average winter.
Yeah. So one, thanks, Patty, for that. One thing I just want to add to what Ken's saying, and this was, as Ken said, a great team effort from, I think, 5 or 6 different bodies, because there have historically been a lot of questions about the high school gym roof. We had worked with DPW on that, and as Ken said, there's no snow removal that's currently done there. The other thing is there were 2 separate structural engineering analyses done of the high school gym roof. I think people are aware there is a canopy on the other part of the high school roof today. And both of the structural engineering analyses that have been done to date say that there should be no problem with the solar installation that is proposed here. Of course, Select will do a third piece of structural engineering analysis as part of implementing this project if town meeting approves it. But just wanted to share that we had known about one of them and then had dug up the second one with EFPBC and found that both of them supported that there is the ability to do solar on the high school gym roof.
So Roger Wilson has a question. I'm bringing him in.
So my question is follow up on the snow removal. So these panels can support the canopy in the parking lot, can support a snow load. And the snow is likely to melt. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, Roger, both of those things are true, because these solar panels in general are pretty dark. They tend to melt pretty quickly. But in addition to that, you do have winters like the one we just had where you have very large snowfalls and it takes longer to melt. And these systems are quite sturdy, and they're designed to handle any conceivable snow load that we may get.
And are the assumptions of the amount of electricity generated, are they do they factor in that there's no snow removal?
Yes, they do. Solar companies, including Select, which is the one that we would work with, don't want the solar panels to be cleared. Number one, it's not really necessary. But number two, there's a risk of damaging them if you have people up there with shovels or brooms or whatever they're going to use to clean them off. So all the generation assumptions are based on no snow removal mechanically.
Okay.
Okay. That was, again, a nice, robust conversation. This will be, again, Article 16 on the warrant. And thank you, Ken, for your presentation this evening.
Sure.
Look forward to hearing more at town meeting. Okay. Article 17 begins a section of capital. And I'd like to invite Roger McPeak to join us to talk about Articles 17 through 23, I believe. Roger, you have a nice big chunk of the warrant here. So.
Hey, Roger. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. So in the interest of efficiency, I was thinking that I would run through 17 through 23 and then take questions, if that's okay with you.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay. 17 is where you all get bored and listen to me come up and tell you what we're about to tell you. That lets us foreshadow what's going on, what we're doing. 18 is a consent agenda item that I hope will have been passed by now. It is closing out, it's sort of a housekeeping article where we are closing out projects that have been completed that have no further claims against them and rolling those funds back into the stabilization funds from which they were funded. The only thing that I would point out on this one is the really nice closeouts that we have on the Building Stabilization Fund that will help us accomplish Article 22, which I'll talk about in a second. Article 19 is the usual capital projects article. You'll notice that it's quite small this time around. We did a lot of our work in the fall, and we pulled some things into the fall, such as roads and sidewalks that normally we did at this point in time. We did that in the fall in order for the roads people to get started before July and have those funds available to them. We'd hoped that the override had passed, and there might have been a few more projects that we would have had on this list, but this is what we have, which is non-controversial. The first is the three motions are ADA transition plan funding in the amount of $125,000. That's been pretty standard. You've seen that all for more than a decade. MS4 permitting, for those of you that aren't great fans of what MS4 means, it's municipal stormwater sewer system something else. I forget what the 4S is. It's a requirement that we have with the EPA for us to run our storm and sewer systems, that we provide information to them, and so that's what we're doing there. The next one is Everett Avenue drainage. We've been trying to get the culvert work done in that area. We've had, as we were doing that, we've had concerns expressed by the residents in that area about road flooding that goes on in severe rain events. So what we are going to do is do an analysis in that area to make sure that, see if there are things that we can do to mitigate road flooding during severe events, and make sure that we've got the culvert properly sized that's in that area in those instances. So Article 20 is also consent, and that is rescinding bonding funding that we didn't need. This is an excellent thing for us. We were anticipating that we're going to need $1,025,000 of bonding to accomplish the McCall roof and Ambrose roof work, and we did not need that. So we're asking town meeting to rescind that authority, but we're then going to ask you to authorize that $1 million worth of authority for the town hall roof later on in Article 22. Article 21 is the South Res Dam. We ran into troubles on this one. We had both a large expansion of work, not in terms of the scope, but just in terms of things that we did not anticipate, or that we could not see, that were underwater. So there was a lot of work that had to be done, an additional amount of work that had to be done underwater, adding in a great deal of riprap, which is the boulders and things like that you'll see on the water side face of the dam. And also, our predecessors left us a nice gift that we discovered after we got into doing the repairs in the form of some contamination that they had buried on the backside of the dam. We additionally ran into issues and disputes with the contractor as all of this was going on, and it was elected that we would terminate the contract before the work was complete. That was managed by the select board in executive session as is appropriate. But in order to complete the project, we need $830,000. It's stabilized on the back, but in order to complete it, we need $830,000 of additional funding to complete it. Using closeouts and unexpended bond funds, we're able to fund that to the amount that we still really only need about $330,000 of additional funding. And that's really what we're asking for here. We're asking for authority to use the closeouts, authority to use the unexpended bond funds, and then asking for $330,000 of new money to complete the project. Article 22 is the one that I've been talking about, which is the town hall roof and bell tower. This was a part of the combined package of the library roof, library windows, town hall roof, and town hall bell tower. If you've seen, the library roof is going on, it's going on quite nicely right now. When those bids came in, we didn't have enough money to authorize the town hall roof and bell tower. By taking the account closeouts, by taking the $1 million that we didn't need to use for the McCall and Ambrose roof, and taking some additional funds, we're putting together $2.4 million. We had originally believed that it was going to be something on the order of $1.5 million, but by getting better market information from the library bids, and also, unfortunately, this winter from some pretty severe storm damage, we have additional work beyond what we were originally anticipating. We're going to need $2.4 million, but we're able to accomplish that because of the exceptional closeouts, because of the $1 million that we were able to move over from the Ambrose and McCall projects, and from some additional funds that we had left over in the building stabilization fund. So we're hoping to get that moving forward this spring. Article 23 is to develop, if you will, a set of design and development documents for us looking at the very large project that we are eventually going to have to do on Town Hall. The HVAC system is failing, to be quite honest. Town Hall or town meeting has authorized $500,000 to keep it on its feet. We're doing that, but that's throwing good money after bad. When we do replace the HVAC system, it's going to trigger ADA requirements that we do throughout the building. When we do that, we're going to be taking down walls and plaster and opening things up. It's going to require us to move people out of the areas that they're in. There are other things that we want to accomplish at that same time in order to save money, such as electrical work, fire suppression work that would go on at the same time. So what we really need is a comprehensive way to look at all of this basket of projects that we know that we need to do when we finally undertake this work, and make sure that we're getting everything done that we need to get done while we have walls down, while we have windows out, things like that. And we need a quarterback. We need a game plan to go through all of this, and doing these design and development documents, getting in an architect and engineers to look at the overall scope of the project will help us in the long term and will save us money. So that's what Article 23 is. And I can talk to Article 24 very quickly because it's also a consent agenda. And I think this one is relatively non-controversial, which is funding the strategic maintenance account. It is co-sponsored by, it's not just capital. And I'll allow the town manager to speak to it, and obviously, and anybody from the select board that co-sponsors. But this is really a no-brainer. This one saves us so much money by by allowing us to immediately do repairs instead of letting things degrade. We keep systems online. We keep rolling stock moving. We keep things from degrading further to the point that we have to replace them as opposed to fixing them now. I'll stop there. Article 25 is also includes capital. I don't know how it didn't make it to the consent agenda, but I'm sure we'll have some questions about that one.
Thank you, Roger. And yes, I concur on Article 24. I think it's a great use of resources and allows for speedy response to be proactive on items rather than have them degrade and cause more expense down the road. Do we have any questions? I think Roger was pretty thorough.
No hands are raised. Oh, what? Roger's, hold on. Bring Roger in.
So I just wanted a little more information about what the problem is with the town hall roof. I remember dealing with this years ago when I was on Capitol, and I just wanted to understand it's a slate roof.
Yes. Okay. Well, you may recall 2 years ago, we were looking at 4 immediate roofs. We had the library roof that was in trouble. We had slates coming off and sliding off the town hall roof. You could come up and you would find them laying after a snowstorm on the side, which was rather concerning. That, quite frankly, scared me. If one of those came off and hit a person, it would have been disastrous. So we looked at the town hall roof as well. We had McCall roof and we had Ambrose roof. We looked at all 4 of those roofs at the same time and had an analysis done. They came back and they said to us, you have to replace the library roof. You have to replace the McCall roof. You can do some work on Ambrose roof, and you can do some work on the town hall roof without total replacement. We then broke those 2 packages up into McCall and Ambrose roof and sent those off on the sides. They're sort of conventional. We thought we would get some economies of scale and scope by putting together the library roof and the town hall roof and doing just repairs on the town hall roof, but complete replacement on the library roof. When the library roof bids came in, it required more funds than we'd allocated for that combined project. Now we're carrying some significant reserves because we're afraid, quite honestly, what we're going to find when we open up a roof that hasn't been looked underneath for 75 to 100 years. I don't think we know exactly how long it's been. So we're carrying significant reserves on that project, and we're going to carry significant reserves on the town hall repairs. We also have the bell tower, where you may recall we lost some bricks out of a few years ago. We had engineers go up and take a look inside, and they said, it's not a structural issue, but you need work. So it turned into the town hall roof and bell tower repairs. As I mentioned, over this last winter, we had some severe weather, and ice dams built up underneath it and created additional damage that we're going to have to repair as well. So we're going to have to do a bit of additional engineering work in terms of the scope of the roof repairs that we're going to do on Town Hall. And I hope that explains where we stand with it.
So would it be safe to say that there's a lot of uncertainty in these particular projects, and they could come in significantly lower than what you're saying the reserves would cover?
I'm sure hoping for that. I stopped by and I spoke with the gentleman up applying the slates on the library right now, and I specifically asked them what it looked like underneath. And they said they were shocked how good it looked right now. So we can keep our fingers crossed, but we're going to walk into this with our eyes open and with some money in our back pocket if things don't turn out so well. What we don't want to get into it is shortchanging us, but we're hoping that we're going to come out of this on the positive side.
So that was the case in the past, and I have some experience with slate roofs, and they can last a very long time.
I've got nothing further. If there's another question.
There's no one else.
Thank you, Roger, very much. If you want to hang around for just a second, Article 25, the carriage house demolition. Is there anyone who would like to speak on that? This is actually property that the school committee has control over because it's on the, it's even though it's next to the Sanborn House, it's part of the property of the schools. I know this has been discussed a little bit before, Roger, I think, right, at town meeting. So does anyone want to talk more about this?
If no one from schools is there,
Tim Matthews is here. Tim, all right. Tim is going to speak.
Tim in.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Roger, I'm happy for you to do this as well, but I guess I'm the school's representative tonight. So this is something that the committee voted months back. There was a decision to move this from consideration at fall town meeting to spring town meeting this spring, but it is it was a unanimous vote that the committee took to unfortunately call for the funding for demolition of the carriage house, which sits in between the Sanborn House and the Ambrose Elementary School. The unfortunate set of options that we were faced with was that we would either have to stabilize the building in some way because it's currently not fully secured, and also has issues with the sort of exterior, let's just say that the exterior envelope, both the sides and the roof as well. Or to ask for funding for its demolition. As anyone who's been on town meeting for a few years knows, there was a prior effort to solicit funding from town meeting for the reconstruction of that building and to turn it into a home for our central administration. That was not affirmatively voted by town meeting at the time, and so it has continued to linger since then. With no further proposals. And so after a lot of deliberation, and as I said, a 5-0 vote of the committee, we chose to move forward asking for demolition funding. Obviously, because of the historic nature of the building, there was a demolition delay imposed by the Historical Commission, which we are currently working through. And I think, Roger, if there's anything else you wanted to say, this is the opportunity that we have to seek funding, unfortunately, for this. I just want to make it very clear that I don't think there's anyone on the school committee that wants to see this demolished, but unfortunately, it's gotten to a place where it's just not a viable project to either secure it. It would be much more cost for some potential future use. And so we decided to go with the option to solicit the demolition funding.
I guess what I would say is everyone needs to understand there is no joy in this article at all.
That's right.
There is no joy in this, but sometimes difficult decisions need to be made. We've been looking for a mechanism or a reason, a use for this structure that's affordable for at least a decade. To consider that this hasn't been ongoing is not true. I know that schools have been working with people throughout this delay period and talking over possibilities. I don't believe that anyone's been able to find a solution, and this is a problem for us. This structure, we need to bring it down. There's asbestos in it. There's mold in it. I'm hopeful that we don't have something that disturbs that situation and that the entire building becomes considered contaminated. Right now it's contained. If were the entire building to become considered contaminated because of some structural failure or something, then our costs are going to go through the roof. And it's not just leave it alone. It does cost us something even just sitting there. We have to insure it. That it may be small dollars relative to our total insurance bill, but we do have to insure it. So it's just time. We walked through the solutions that are affordable, and this is the decision or this is the conclusion that 3 different groups have agreed to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it, Roger. It is not a joyful solution at all. It is something that's disappointing. I'll make the point that 3 out of the 5 current members of school committee have joined in the past two and a bit years. And so, as we look at this, what we see is, an aggregation and accretion of decisions that were made over an extended period of time. The unfortunate thing is that there has not been a plan, a funding plan that has gained the necessary support. Obviously, as you said, we've been trying to look for alternate options. But the key gatekeeping factor there is money, and there just has not been a source of money in the 7 figures that's necessary to do something alternatively with this building. And the other thing I failed to mention is that we've had specific inquiries from our school leadership and educators at Ambrose. They're obviously, because of the fact it's not just that the building perimeter is not secure in terms of things being able to infiltrate the building from the elements, but also it is something that we've had a couple of behavioral incidents where students have sought access to the structure, and it's a really unsafe situation for the children that are on that campus and in our care to have a decaying unsecured structure immediately next door. And so that is definitely something that is as a consideration that's weighed on the school committee's mind as well.
So I have 2 quick Q&A questions, and then Candace Van Aken also has her hand raised. So the first question is the demolition urgent?
I mean, I think, Roger, you already answered that to some extent. Is that a fair assessment?
I tried to say that this is not a zero cost option to just leave it sitting there. And also, if something happens, our costs to bring the structure down, whether through human action or weather or whatever else, were the asbestos inside that building to be disturbed and the entire structure be considered to be contaminated, I don't even know what the implications are for that for the children next door, but it would certainly send our costs of demolition through the roof.
And I would say, from the school committee perspective, I think the fact that we brought this forward in the way we have now is an indication of our perception of urgency. It's definitely been, as I said, a problem that has gotten more and more challenging for us to address, especially for our school leadership team on the Ambrose campus. And I just don't think, especially given how proximate the building is to one of our functioning elementary schools, I think it's a challenge that needs to be addressed at this point. We cannot. The committee's perspective, I guess, is that we have not. We cannot let it fester longer.
Okay. So the other question is twofold. Does the $300,000 cost estimate include the asbestos removal and mold and any other environmental complications? And then also, what are the insurance costs, and what direction has the insurance company given, if any, to secure the property and reduce the insurance liabilities?
I'll take this one. The $300,000 includes remediation as it stands today, and then the removal of the building, and also just making sure that the surface is level. We're not doing anything else other than we'll put loam on top and make sure that it's seeded or something else like that. The insurance costs are in the low thousands of dollars for this particular structure right now. I'm unaware that's just because it also has an additional cost because it is a unoccupied building. I don't know anything else other than that. I asked that specific question today, but it is an additional cost just because it's an unoccupied building. I don't know that we've been given any instructions by the insurance company.
And I would expect that our partners on the municipal side who oversee this would have the specifics on more specifics on the insurance costs. I know there are at least some select board members as well as the town manager here. So
Stacy, can I bring you in and you could address this?
Sure.
Okay.
The insurance cost is $3,026 for the vacant policy that we have. And there are requirements. I believe primarily the building has to be locked and secured at all times and checked regularly for any disturbances or any issues that come up. I can get real specific information if you need it, but we do have requirements on all the vacant policies that we have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any questions for Roger or Tim?
Right. I think it was a very healthy conversation again. So thank you. Thank you, Roger, very much. And Tim, if you can hang on, because we have a few more
Yeah.
things for you. Um, the Article 26, and Roger, please correct me if I'm wrong. The work, there is, since there is now been determined to have enough funding to go forward this summer, this article will be, Article 26 will be indefinitely postponed, and the work will continue with the existing funding. Am I correct, Roger, I think?
Hold on.
Actually, it's really an EFPBC thing. Sorry. It's
Yeah, not
really-
me.
Sorry.
Yep.
So my understanding, and somebody can raise their hand in the audience. I see someone has raised their hand.
Dorothy, I'll bring her in. Dorothy, you're in. If you're going to continue with Article 26.
Oh, no, do we move on from the carriage house already?
Yeah, if you want to go back to carriage house, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had one more question. I put it in there, but it didn't get read. And this might be one for town council that we're going to have to, maybe ask on the floor, or maybe we can get an answer ahead of time. Given that schools was responsible for the property and allowed it to fall into disrepair, one could argue that this is a case of demolition by neglect. So what precedent does that allowing the actual demolition now set for privately owned properties in Winchester?
Yeah, I think that would have to be a question for council, Dorothy, but thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. To go back to Article 26. So as I understand it, the work is being, this is going to be pulled, or I definitely postponed because there is sufficient funding to move forward. Was there somebody else who wanted to speak on this? Anthea wants to speak on this. Okay.
I was just going to add that the motion that the proponents put forward is that it would be indefinitely postponed in the motion book.
Okay, so we're ready to move on to Article 27 and 28. We'll do 27 first. And for that, Tim Matthews, the chair of the school committee.
Hi, everybody. It's Tim again. Breaking update on this. The school committee met at noontime today to consider what was to be done with the motion and background in the motion book. For those who've reviewed Article 27 in the motion book, it was indicated in there that the motion and background would be sent under separate cover. The committee, as one of its agenda items today, took up a discussion of whether to move forward, which motion and background to move forward with. So as you know, the school committee has previously voted 5-0 to support on different occasions, including the committee as currently comprised, as well as former iterations of the committee before the election. And then prior to that, when we initially put in our application for the Morocco feasibility, or for the Morocco project rather, to MSBA, the committee has voted 5-0 to support rebuilding Morocco Elementary School in partnership with the MSBA. We were very fortunate, for those who have not been following this program on TV previously, we were very fortunate to be invited this past fall, late winter really, into eligibility with the MSBA around the Morocco project to have it rebuilt. And so we are now in the first module of that process, which is essentially just the stuff that we're trying to do to get things kicked off on the project. And so the committee voted today to put in motion language that had been approved by the MSBA as eligible for meeting their requirements, which asks Springtown meeting for the authorization to bond funds up to $1.5 million for the feasibility study, which is one of the next processes that we have to undergo with the MSBA. So there is a 270-day window of eligibility, and we, as a town, in order to move forward with MSBA, need to vote that by the end of November. There was, as those who were paying close attention would know, there was some debate on the committee as to whether to initially the vote was to move this forward in the spring. Then the committee voted 3-2 to move this forward rather in the fall. And when we returned for the motion language today, it was decided 5-0 to move this forward in the spring. And obviously there's been, again, for those following, a tremendous amount of engagement with the Morocco community, the parents, families, children coming out to our meetings. And it was very clear that it was important to them as the last of the schools that's had the opportunity to have a building that is not compromised and falling apart, to have that moved forward as quickly as possible. It is the school committee's intention, and the superintendent indicated this on our meeting today, that this will go to the December meeting of the MSBA. So whether the funding is voted on now at Springtown meeting, the timeline remains the same. And so we are excited to move this forward with a full presentation that will be coming likely at the town meeting session a week and a day from tonight. And I'm happy to take any questions, though I do see that the first one that's actually in the chat box is regarding Article 26, which we moved past because of the motion by the proponent to indefinitely postpone it.
I don't see anybody with a hand raised. Tim.
Yeah, I know. All I see is Kathy Bodie had put in this question about Article 26. I'm
Right,
not 100% sure that this.
I will say that it's to the best of my knowledge, and I'll that there is sufficient funding to go forward this summer with a project, which is the reason that they're not asking for more money right now. So
right.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, I just didn't want to answer on behalf of the EFPBC because they are the proponents of that.
So if I made a mistake, somebody correct me, but I think that's my understanding is they're good to go this summer. There is a question that just popped up, Tim.
Yeah, I see from Carol Savage. It reads, "Can you elaborate on the study committee and opportunities for public input as the feasibility study is developed?" Yeah, those are. I mean, the study committee, the school committee actually directed the superintendent today during our meeting to put together what I would sort of characterize as a community advisory body around the Morocco feasibility project. And I think that's going to have pretty broad representation, both from the community as well as members of town meeting, potentially, as well as educators who are involved in the Morocco building also. So that's sort of the goal of that. To be honest, it came out of a proposal that it came forward from John Belair, who's our newest member, as a potential alternative for what motion language to move forward. And then the committee decided to move forward with the motion language, as I already explained, and then to have this as a second directive for the superintendent to put together this body in collaboration with his team. So the second question that Ms. Savage has is, are opportunities for public input there as the feasibility studies developed? Absolutely. I mean, we can certainly take any input along the way, but I'm not sure. I guess my question in response would be, what kind of public input are you envisioning? Is it more on sort of the design of the building or what? Because there's many dimensions of public input, so I don't want to commit to something that is not necessarily part of the process. I don't know if Ms. Savage is typing something into the chat box, but I see that Kathy Bodie also put together, put in another question regarding Article 27, so I'm happy to take that. It was reported that the superintendent recommended to table this motion until fall town meeting. Did he change his recommendation today? I would say that the superintendent was mindful of the community input that we've received, and is based on the presentation that Mr. Belair put together today, which I would commend to anyone. We're going to make sure that the recording of the meeting is posted, so I would commend that to anybody who's interested in learning more. I would say that the superintendent is mindful of the community feedback that we've received, and also we are, regardless of whether this moves forward in the spring or it moves forward in the fall, we are fully committed to the Morocco project as a board. And I think our administration team is also committed to doing what's necessary to move this forward. I think the sort of key takeaway from today is that we are going to be targeting the December meeting rather than an earlier meeting. It's really not possible to go potentially any earlier than October. But given the situation and the sort of steps that we need to put in place, we would be targeting a submission for the MSBA's December meeting. I hope that answers your question, Kathy.
Carol has a follow-up.
Yeah, I see Carol's follow-up. There have been various questions about the preschool program assumptions, and it seems like it'll be important to have data and maybe a public hearing before that's finalized, but she's glad we're moving forward with feasibility. Thanks for that. And I also see there's another question around pre-K. So the pre-K is actually something that we discussed similar to what was discussed regarding the Lynch project in terms of whether it might be included. I'll just make the point that I guess both to Ms. Savage and to Ms. Mboli's questions, the pre-K programming, one of the main reasons why this is discussed as part of the process is because of the fact that Morocco and Lynch are two Title I schools, which means they have a higher proportion of students with greater needs, whether that's in large part because of them being classed as low SES under Massachusetts' definition. That's low socioeconomic status. The pre-K program is often something that is included in these projects as a way to sort of serve the needs of the community. And it is a part of the sort of study aspect of the feasibility process. And so we will definitely be sort of looking into that, what the sort of configuration of that might look like, and whether it does end up being a part of the program at Morocco, similar to the decision that was made around Lynch. I'll just make the point that I think is really important, which is that whether town meeting, I do not believe that a fulsome discussion of whether pre-K is included is part of the consideration about feasibility. The level and detail of questions that have been raised, I understand there's been a lot of community, there's just been a lot of community engagement, which I think is driving a higher level of scrutiny, which obviously is great. But almost I would characterize that as a bit premature. The point of the feasibility process is to sort of look at all these aspects and dimensions and get thoroughly researched answers to all these questions and to have those discussions. And so to sort of, I guess, hopefully answer Ms. Savage's question, I'm hoping that that's, that we can get town meeting's approval on the feasibility funding and then start to move forward the process of how we actually sort of decide what this building looks like, across a multitude of dimensions, right? Programmatically, as well as, the construction aspects of it and other things, the number of students it serves, those kinds of questions. That's really what the feasibility process and the later modules are about with MSBA. To specifically answer Ms. Mboli's question, you use the abbreviation UPK, which means universal pre-K. It's my understanding that there's no contemplation. I mean, certainly the district could programmatically think about a universal pre-K program if it wanted to, but the specific conversation that we've been having around Morocco is a Morocco specific pre-K program, and whether that's integrated into the building or space requirements needs for the newly either renovated or reconstructed school. And Roger Wilson's question was why the December meeting. That's just when we are able to get, so the MSBA only meets on a periodic basis and you have to have all your meeting materials. It's kind of like a version of our 48-hour posting requirements on steroids because of the nature of what goes into the package and the sort of periodic meeting of that board. You have to have your materials in a certain amount of time in advance for them to consider them at a certain meeting. And my understanding from Dr. Hackett is that it's sort of a question of whether it goes to the October meeting versus the December meeting. And just given the work that we need to do to prepare, particularly for our educational plan, and that will ultimately influence what we ask for in terms of space configurations for the building, and can actually accommodate from a budgetary perspective in terms of the building. that I think the timeline is it makes most sense for us to aim for the December meeting, given the work that we need to do between now and then.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. That's been a very thorough conversation so far tonight. I don't see anyone else with a hand raised or something in the box. That said, you're still on the hook for Article 28.
I know.
That is a literacy conversation. So you could put your literacy hat on for this one.
Yep. So for again, those who've not been tuned into this other TV program, over the past 2 years, the Winchester Public Schools has convened different bodies, culminating in what was known as our Early Literacy Team, or ELT, which was educators and leaders across the district who piloted 2 different versions of K-5 literacy curriculum, one called EL and the other one called Arts and Letters. The ELT came in and presented at our meeting last month and gave a full-throated and wholehearted recommendation that we implement the Arts and Letters curriculum for K-5 across the Winchester Public Schools. I'll just note that this is really the first time that the Winchester Public Schools, which is sort of an unbelievable thing to me, have actually had the opportunity to fully implement a K-5 literacy curriculum, units of study, which is the sort of much debated curriculum that's been used in the district, which at the time it was adopted, my understanding is something in the neighborhood of 15 years ago, was kind of the most ubiquitous curriculum, was only really implemented on a partial basis in Winchester. And in speaking with our assistant superintendent, who's been here for a number of those 15 years, it was surfaced that the sort of follow-up curriculum budget was right around $10,000 per year after that. And so the sort of both the professional development, professional learning opportunities, as well as the sort of updates and things to go with that curriculum over time were not invested in. And so I would characterize our rollout of that now perceived to be flawed curriculum, even being incomplete at the time. So this is really our opportunity for the first time to have a district-wide shared platform, curricular platform that all of our educators can use with our students. It is a highly regarded curriculum that works very nicely with the phonics curriculum that we're using, which is called UFly. There's other phonics curricula as well, but that was the one that we decided to roll out district-wide. It does sort of work as the knowledge building component of it, and it does have assessments built into it. Arts and Letters does. And I think from the ELT, if you watch the presentation that they made at our meeting, as well as speak to any of the parents and children who were part of the pilot this year, I think what you'll hear very consistently from all of the educators and families is that this was a high quality curriculum that was received extremely positively. And I saw somewhere online that somebody said this was the must pass article of Springtown meeting, and I would agree with that assessment. This is the culmination of a tremendous amount of work that was done in a very collaborative and community-based fashion. So I hope that we will be able to move this forward as well and implement it fully for the 2026-27 school year.
Okay, again, that was a pretty thorough discussion, thorough explanation, Tim. Thank you. I see. Oh, there's one. There's 2. You see the comments? I'm sorry.
I do. So Ms. Savage, the presentation by the Literacy Pilot Study Group was very impressive. I recommend town meeting members watch it. I agree. Thank you. I definitely would recommend it to you as well. And certainly, Mr. Senior, we can work with you to make sure that that gets out to folks so that they can find that if they can't find it easily on WinCam. Roger Wilson asks, why is this a separate motion from the school budget? I think that actually comes from some discussion that we've had about what are perceived as one-time expenditures. This is to implement the new curricular materials. And obviously there are year-on-year costs that we would characterize as either consumables, the materials that students are actually using in the classroom, or are the yearly licensing fees that I've said before that curriculum has sort of moved into the Netflix model. So there is a smaller amount that is going to be a year-on-year licensing fee for the curriculum. But the idea was to sort of carve out and vote on this as a one-time element, since it's the cost of transitioning to the new curriculum, purchasing the initial purchase of the materials, and the initial professional development, professional learning costs to get educators up to speed across the district on using this curriculum. So that was why I think the idea is to have it not necessarily be included in the operating budget, to the extent that it's not an ongoing cost at the level that this one-time expenditure is. And that's something we've discussed with our partners on the select board at length. So definitely former chair Pryor, that was something that she was very keen to make sure of.
And it is a best practice to take things like that and make them one-time costs. I agree. So from my experience as well. Okay, I think it was again a great, thorough conversation. I see no one else. Thank you, Tim, very much.
No problem. Thanks for your time, everybody.
So Articles 29, 30, and 31 are the budget. That's got to be easy. I think this conversation will take only 5 minutes at town meeting. The hearing for this will take place on April 28th. So anyone who wants to talk about the budget with the Finance Committee, block time on your calendars for next Tuesday. That's the day after the first day of the meeting. Remember, finance articles for next year we can't take up until May 4th. So the Finance Committee's hearing will be April 28th. That's actually 29 through 32. Okay, we're going to move on. Oops, sorry, I went too fast. To Article 33, and this is the personnel board article. This is raises for non-union employees and adjustments that need to be made to schedules. The information's in the packet. The personnel board has met on this and voted on. Is there anyone from the personnel board that wants to discuss this? I don't see anybody. Okay. So it's all up there. I'll move on to article. So you can see there's the various motions. The fire contract is settled in there. The one, just so if anyone has a question, the police unions have not negotiated yet. We still haven't met with them. They haven't wanted to meet yet. So I'm hoping that will happen soon. We're going to have a potentially retroactive settlement for this cycle, for this year, and then we'll go forward. But those conversations are not settled because they haven't started. Article 34 and 35 are both the Winchester Committee on Community Preservation, and I believe we have Christina Marshall, the chair, here to discuss them both. Welcome, Christina.
You do. Hi, Chris. How are you? So I will go through both of these articles at a high level, and then I'll be happy to take questions on both of them. Number 34, our first article this year, is basically our budget article. So this gives you a little preview of our money that we can use this fall for town meeting, and how we propose to appropriate the money per state law. So this year, our estimated CPA surcharge is $1.8 million. The state match that was announced last month is about $255,000. So that brings us to a total estimated revenue of $2,055,000. Similar to last year, we are recommending that we bank 10% in each of the 3 statutorily required buckets. So that's open space and recreation as the first bucket, historic resources as the second, community housing, affordable housing as the third. We're also recommending $40,000 for our administrative budget. That is just under 2% of our total budget. The statute lets us go up to 5%, but we don't need that much. And then the rest of the amount will go into our annual budgeted reserve, which gets you to just under 1.4 million for that. And As with last year, what we would do is accept applications for the funding cycle beginning actually May 15th. Final applications will be due June 15th, and we will consider them using these funds as well as the leftover rollover funds from last year. So we actually are anticipating about 2.6 million, I think, total that's available for projects this fall. So that's Article 34. That's a majority vote. Article 35 is a project that we're bringing forward to town meeting. This would be for the acquisition of Forest Ridge by the request of the Conservation Commission. This is a 2/3 vote because it involves borrowing and land acquisition. The Conservation Commission has asked to appropriate $3 million, and that would basically be the ceiling at which they could negotiate the purchase of the site, which is 13.7 acres out on the Stoneham border in Winchester. I'll note that there was a really informative infocast about this article last night hosted by TMMA, which is available on YouTube for anybody to watch it. I believe a lot of questions were asked and answered at that meeting, but I am happy to answer any questions that have come up since then, or from anyone who wasn't able to attend.
Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. Hopefully it's smooth for you on town meeting floor tonight, Christina.
I like that attitude. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for being here tonight. By the way, I did skip over unintentionally Article 32. That's in the consent agenda, and that's just to set annual caps on revolving funds. That's just a routine article that happens every year. Then Articles 36 and 37 are also on the consent agenda. Those are actually articles that are also done routinely every year. They're more procedural than anything. We are, let's see, Article 38 is kind of is still in formation a little bit because we don't know exactly how that's going to play out. I will tell you that $450,000 will be moved from the excess revenue in the tax in the overlay account. The Board of Assessors voted to release those funds back in February. So that'll roll into the as available funds for the FY27 budget. And the free cash number will obviously be part of the conversations with the FinCom. We are now turning to citizen petitions. We have a series of them here tonight. If any of the proponents, as we reach them, are available, we'd be excited to have you have a conversation and answer any questions. The first up is Article 39, and we have George Nowell here, who is the sponsor, to present. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. George Nowell, Precinct 2. This article proposes a small one-year trial committee to collect, organize, and present clear and consistent financial data on the transfer station. The transfer station is one of the most used town services, but perhaps one of the least understood. Information about the transfer station can seem fragmented, not consistently presented, and often difficult to find, even as town meeting makes decisions on an over $2 million operation. This committee would work collaboratively with staff and does not create policy or influence operation. It exists to inform. It simply gives town meeting better information to make better decisions. This committee would maintain records over time. Boards and working groups change, but this information would remain consistent and accessible. I also want to note for transparency that I operate as a commercial hauler who uses the transfer station, but this proposal is strictly about improving access to clear, objective information for town meeting. Thank you.
Wyatt is the only other person in the audience that would find.
Thank you, George. I appreciate your time. Does anyone have any questions for George? Okay. I don't know if you have a easy time on town meeting floor, but you had a great time tonight. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Okay. Article 40 involves updating the town code, which currently exempts residential properties from snow clearance rules to require snow clearance in front of residential properties. I know that the proponent is the proponent, Mr. Brady, available tonight?
He is not.
Okay. I don't have any questions that any questions? By the way, I couldn't answer them anyway. So there we go. So this will be it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but the article's here. So Article 40, this would require residential snow clearance. Article 41 would change rules for the town use for certain kinds of rat poison. Is the proponent in the audience this evening?
I don't see her, and there's
Okay.
no hand raised.
Okay. All right. Then we have Article 40.
I have Meredith
Yeah.
Crowley has raised
I'm
her
sorry.
hand. Meredith
Okay.
Crowley has raised her hand, so I can bring her up and see if she has anything.
Sure.
Hi,
Meredith?
how you doing? I helped to review this for the Committee on Government Regulations. If you would like me to just give you a quick overview.
Sure.
Okay. This was brought to town meeting last year and was referred for some review to look at costs. The proponent did a presentation and then it was indefinitely postponed. This is pretty much about the town deciding to limit or ban use of these anticoagulant rodenticides on town-owned land. And that is really the focus. And this past year, both the health department looked at different ways to work with this approach, and so didn't DPW. And at the same time, I believe the transfer station is using alternative types of anticoagulant rodenticides. There are two types of anticoagulant rodenticides. They're called first and second generation, and it depends on the level of intensity of them. So, so this is pretty much a bill or a proposal for a new chapter in our bylaws to establish a bylaw to reduce or limit. There is a clause where if in a outbreak, the school department or one of the departments could ask for a waiver through the health department for in the event of the need for use. So it's been reviewed by the Board of Health, the Health Department, and again, DPW. And that is pretty much the focus of this. This is part of a movement of environmentalists across the state. And when the proponent first came to the town about a year ago, she met with several different boards, and the town decided they wanted to move away from it. And then at the state level, there is a bill also being presented that would basically limit use or ban on both public and private property. But this is just on town-owned property.
Okay. I appreciate your illumination, Meredith. Thank you. Okay. That is Article 41. And by the way, someone did ask about snow clearance. The town does clear major routes to school and near schools. Doesn't clear the sidewalks all over town though, and business owners are responsible for clearing the areas and mixed use properties. So if you had a building that was residential and commercial, those areas have to be clear. The town does do snow clearance still on some of the major entry points to schools, so kids can walk in and ride in and out. The Article 42 would create a committee to study ranked choice of voting. Is Mr. Healy in the audience or anyone else who would like to present?
No one.
Okay, we'll move on. Article 43 as a citizen petition that would direct the movement of a drain pipe, and I believe that Mr. Beal is in the audience.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a project that I think maybe had gotten forgotten about since it was begun just before COVID and only raised in the last couple of years. But and my name is Wyatt Beal. We live at 176 Dauphin Street. And in 2017, there was a flash flood that affected our northerly neighbors and basically placed 2 feet of water in their basement. And at the time, the DPW had requested a temporary easement to place a stormwater pipe through our backyard. And at that time, of course, we didn't have any objection to it at all because we didn't want to see our neighbors go through such an event again. But since that time, we've learned that it does reduce our buildable area of our lot by about 30% or so. And in addition, it also affects greatly the residents in Arlington downstream because about 50 acres of stormwater is artificially channeled to the properties around mine and then discharged through under ours and then eventually into Arlington. So I was informed that I just needed to amend the language of this article slightly to ask that the town meeting request that the town manager and the DPW consider the viability of relocating this stormwater pipe so that we regain the full use of our lot because presently that pipe is unlawfully existing and channeling stormwater across our property. So I will amend that. I will also include a sum of money to basically appropriate and design a feasibility study to assess the civil engineering and construction costs necessary to relocate that pipe through a public way.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Beal. Any questions? Okay. Again, thank you, Mr. Beal. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Article 44, do we have, sponsors Mike Bedcourt. Anyone in the audience for this one? Okay. Moving on to Article 45. This changes the appointing of the way the EF, well, at least one member of the EFPPZ is appointed. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this article? Horace.
Sorry, Bill, were you gonna describe this one?
Would someone else like to speak on it? I don't. No one's raised their hand, so.
I am happy to. So, but I think I will, unless Bill's jumping in. Bill will be presenting this article on behalf of the board at town meeting, but I'm happy to give a brief overview on it. Bill, unless you want to. Okay. So, so this is a very small technical tweak to the appointing authority of the EFPBC. As everybody knows, the EFPBC is the body that is charged with both the facilities master plan as well as the delivery of new school buildings. Presently, as constituted, there is no EFPBC member who is a member of the school committee, a sitting member of the school committee. So this article is just designed to enhance coordination with the school committee, given that they are responsible for the school budget, the broader facility strategy, and all applications to the MSBA, as we talked about earlier. When the Morocco project, as it goes forward, as you anticipate it probably will, the town will have to create what's called a school building committee, an SBC, under the state process. An SBC is required to have at least one, if not two, school committee members on it, generally at least one. And so the EFPBC would have to be augmented to actually act as a school building committee, because as presently structured, it does not, because it does not have a school committee member on it. More broadly, outside of a active project, which we hopefully will soon be in, the school committee is the body in charge of educational programming. And so divorcing that from the facilities master plan work is sort of a suboptimal process. And that's really the motivation to have a school committee member on the committee itself. The superintendent is a member, but obviously has a huge number of limitations on their bandwidth. And so I think that the view has been that we should also have one school committee member as well. Currently, there are 10 members. The moderator appoints 5 of those members. There are, regular vacancies in those seats. The select board and the school committee jointly appoint 2, and those are reserved for an engineer and an architect, respectively. And so the school committee really only has 1 seat that it fully controls, similar to the 1 seat that it fully controls on capital planning. And like the seat that they have on capital planning, what this article would do is ensure that they can put whoever they want into that seat.
I think that was a complete description. Does anyone have any questions for Paris? Okay, thank you very much. Well, the last article, 46, I do not believe there will be any action on this one. So that will probably be indefinitely postponed unless something happens between now and town meeting. So that, everyone, wraps up this evening's town manager, town meeting budget hearing. Town meeting warrant hearing, sorry. Budget hearings next week, Finance Committee. Thank you to all who attended and took part. I really want to thank Patty for all her work tonight in making the Zoom meeting happen, and to Jen for all her work in getting the PowerPoint together, and for everyone who makes town meeting happen, because that is the most important activity that the town takes every year. Looking forward to it. It's next Monday evening, 27th at the high school. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to all of the exciting debate and discussion and voting that will take place. Again, my thanks to all. Have a very good evening.